Imagine a world without social media, yet rumors spread faster than wildfire. Courts fill, bells toll, ordinary neighbors become symbols of cosmic fear. What if witch trials weren't just chaos, but a system, a repeatable sequence that turns anxiety into action? Tonight, we'll trace the steps of that system, how it started, how it fed itself, and how a few quiet voices learned to break it. And here's the shocker. Once you see the pattern, you'll start spotting it everywhere. Part 1. Inputs. How a scared village becomes a loaded equation. Start with ingredients, not spells, pressures, harsh winters, crop failures, epidemics, border wars rumbling at the edge of maps. People reach for meaning when life turns random. But what meaning is easiest to reach? In small communities, news is local. A cow dies, a child falls ill, a storm flattens a field. On its own, it's misfortune. Add fear, and misfortune becomes a message. Who did this to us is a question with a satisfying shape and a dangerous answer. Enter the scapegoat, the widow who speaks bluntly, the healer who knows herbs better than priests, the outsider who doesn't follow the script. When the village is a pressure cooker, difference is heat. Notice the environment. One church bell, one market square, one courtroom that doubles as a meeting hall. Information travels by face, by whisper, by sermon. Without data, rumor becomes data. There's another input, uncertainty about the invisible, spirits, providence, fate. If you believe unseen forces jostle daily life, then a run of bad luck demands an unseen culprit. The world feels safer when every shaking window has a named ghost behind it. And there's power. Local officials need order. Clergy need unity. In a crisis, leaders gain by promising a clean narrative, a cause, a cure, a purge. When the story is tidy, people stop asking messy questions. Now the human math starts. Bias loves a shortcut. If you've heard 3 strange tales about the same person, the 4th tale needs fewer facts. Patterns don't need proof when fear supplies glue. Put all this together, scarcity, uncertainty, hierarchy, and hunger for meaning, and you've built a loaded equation. One spark will solve it, or rather, seem to. And sparks are easy to find. A nightmare, a twitch, a quarrel, a child's fright turned into testimony. The inputs are ready. The village is primed. The algorithm waits for its first click. Part 2. The feedback loop. How accusations manufacture more accusations. Let's watch the machine run. One person accuses another. Small claim, vague detail, but it lands in a room with candles and authority. Suddenly, a whisper becomes a transcript. Step by step, if a respected voice repeats a rumor, then it graduates to common knowledge. If common knowledge enters court, then it becomes evidence by presence alone. If evidence exists, then pressure rises to produce a confession. If a confession appears, then new names are demanded. If new names emerge, then the circle widens and the loop tightens. Confession becomes currency. Admit guilt, and maybe you live. Name others, and maybe you live longer. Soft, the system rewards expansion. It punishes silence. Tell me that isn't a growth algorithm. Think about spectral evidence, visions, dreams, stories of invisible assaults. Courts once accepted such tales because they matched the mood of the moment. When fear sets the metric, the strangest inputs pass quality control. The loop has moderators too. Constables, clerks, magistrates, people who believe they are protecting the community. Each signature aims at order, each seal aims at safety, but a chain of tiny certainties can build a colossal mistake. And the loop has a soundtrack, soft, prayers in the morning, murmurs at noon, the scrape of a quill at night. Every repetition adds weight. Say it enough, and even doubt starts to nod along. Notice how the algorithm multiplies names, measured. One accusation might produce 3 more: friends, midwives, rivals. With each turn, the chance of your name appearing grows. Fear becomes practical. Cooperation becomes survival. Now zoom out. Calm. The loop erases nuance. A healer's salve becomes witch's ointment. A bad harvest becomes proof. A grudge becomes testimony. The map shrinks until there's only guilt and the gallows shadow, in metaphor, not in depiction. And still, ordinary people keep feeding the loop, not because they're villains, but because the system confuses courage with recklessness. In a storm, the loudest shelter is the one that's already crowded. This is the dangerous beauty. The algorithm doesn't need a mastermind. It only needs incentives that point one way. And once momentum exists, stopping feels riskier than running. Part 3. The interface. How symbols, scripts, and spaces shaped belief. Every system has an interface. Symbols, scripts, and spaces that make it feel real. Cole, in witch trials, the interface was theater with legal props. Picture the room: dark wood, tall benches, an emblem on the wall, the judge's voice heavy with duty, the clerk's pen scratching like a small metronome. Authority has a sound, and that sound makes doubts feel impolite. Rituals matter: the oath, the gesture, the formal address of good wife and your honor. Soft. Rituals convert rumor into ceremony. Ceremony converts ceremony into truth. When performance looks sacred, the audience stops testing the script. Words become technology. Measured, afflicted, possessed, specter, confession. Each term compresses complexity into a single stamp. Cool. Labels are shortcuts, and shortcuts cut off exits. The interface extends beyond the courtroom. Sermons that frame trials as moral duty, pamphlets that travel faster than travelers, town meetings where a name arrives before the person does. Cool. More places a story fits, the more places it goes. And there's design. Calm. A witness stands lower, a judge higher. Doors close, windows narrow. These are ordinary choices that quietly instruct the body to obey. Cool. Architecture can prosecute without saying a word. Notice how attention is guided. The crowd watches the accused's hands, the judge's eyes, the minister's lips. Soft. No one watches the rulebook drifting out of reach. Cole, in any panic, what we look at is what we believe. And the interface even shapes memory. Gentle. Years later, people recall the solemn hush, the stack of depositions, the pressure of neighbors turning into an audience. Cool. If it felt official, it must have been right, right? But ask yourself, what if the interface simply polished an error? Quiet intensity. What if the courtroom made a superstition look like a statute? Cool. That's the terror of a beautiful machine. It works smoothly even when it's wrong. Part 4. The Breakers. How doubt, evidence, and mercy disrupted the code. Hopeful. Algorithms can be interrupted. Cole. In the witch trial panic, a few patterns of courage broke the loop. First, raising the bar of evidence. Measured. Some leaders insisted that invisible harms required visible proof. If it can't be weighed or touched, it cannot take a life. Cole. That single rule starved the machine.
Thank you for traveling through history with me today. If this journey sparked a thought, please give the video a like. It helps other curious minds find it. Subscribe to the channel and tap the bell so you never miss the next story. I read every comment. Tell me which era, mystery, or idea you want next, and how I can make these episodes better for you. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.